Hello and welcome. This is Paul again, and this is a continuation of the short video I did about my testimony, where I describe the different thought processes and books and articles and other topics that I've been studying since 2011 to find out what on earth is going on here. I will make this video series as a response to a lot of different questions that I've been receiving from friends, family members, etc. lately as to why have you changed this way, how can you say it like that. And I mean, because most of my friends and relatives, they still believe that what the news is telling them. And this is a sort of like a wake-up call for them to do their own research. Don't trust me, do your own research, do your own homework, check out the links, and then they can put together this big puzzle for themselves. In this part I will be describing the first topic that I started to study when I set out on a quest to find out what on earth is going on. And it started with the financial system. I was sitting in front of the computer one day and I thought that, I have a child now. What happens if I were to die? How do I make sure that I can leave at least a little sum of money for my daughter so that she and my wife, that they don't have to, for example, sell the house or go into excessive debt if I should pass away. And I was sitting in front of my computer and thinking about, okay, so how should I invest this money? Because I sold the house 2010. My house, it was not my wife's house because we were not living together then. I sold the house, and then with this sum from the sale of the house, I wanted to invest. I was sitting in front of my computer looking at the financial newspapers and everything, and I just could not make any sense of it at all. You could have some article saying this, that, oh, the industry is booming, and then the next article said purchase managers warn of reduced income and whatever the titles were. So I really sat down for myself. Okay, what are the different phenomena that we have been going through these last years? There was a financial crisis, 2008, 2009, and then I found this ad on some web page whereby Gerald Celente said that. I saw Celente said that a financial collapse is coming, and I clicked on that presentation, and I thought, oh, okay, this is very interesting, because he was basically saying that there is a financial crisis, another financial crisis just around the corner. But then I started to do some research on. I thought to myself, okay, which were the people that warned about the financial crisis back in 2009, and which were correct, that were correct about it? I mean, if they were correct about it, they maybe obviously one should listen to them and hear what they have to say. So I basically did a search. So I wrote in Google or whatever search engine I used it, saying that. Interviews from 2007 regarding financial collapse, and there were different people that warned about this, and one of them was Mark Faber. This is a great video that you can check. The one here called "Mirror, Mirror on the Wall." That was the first one, and then but it doesn't really go into the architecture of the entire financial system. To find that out, you need to watch this second YouTube link here by Mike Maloney, The Case for $20,000 Gold. And basically what this video outlines is that the entire financial system is designed as a pyramid scheme. And the sole purpose of this pyramid scheme is to transfer wealth from ordinary people to the top of the pyramid. Let's see. Um,
own that shirt. So our currency that circulated was the paper US dollars, and they were claim checks on money. And people do not understand that money has to be a store of value. Only gold and silver qualify as money. They have all the attributes that you need. They're portable, durable, divisible, fungible, and then money is a store of value over long periods of time. One of the things that I always start with
this is what you need
is
to
how
know.
currency is created. Because if you know how the world financial system works, you know the game that you're playing. And if you don't know the game and the rules that we're playing by, you're going to get slaughtered. You are going to get slaughtered. So this, just by knowing this, increases your odds just 100-fold of winning. When you or I write a check, there must be sufficient funds in our account to cover the check. But when the Federal Reserve writes a check, there is no bank deposit on which that check is drawn. When the Federal Reserve writes a check, it is creating money. And that is, putting it simply, from the Boston Federal Reserve's website. Basically, the way this works is, in the United States, it's the US Treasury, but every country has the equivalent of our Treasury. So the treasuries around the world create a bond. And what is a bond? A bond is just an IOU. Loan me $1 trillion, and I promise that over a 30-year period, I'm going to pay you back $2 trillion. That's basically a bond, IOU. And there's something in the middle here called open market operations that I'm going to just show you real quickly, but the open market operations is just a shell game that obscures what is truly going on. So banks show up at the treasury auctions, the primary dealers they're called, and then the Federal Reserve comes along, and through open market operations, they write a check to the bank and they buy that bond from the bank. So the Federal Reserve ends up with the bond. But then the next month, those banks show up at the treasury auction again. Now the Treasury has the dollars, and the Federal Reserve has the bond, and this process repeats itself over and over and over again, and there's a buildup of dollars at the Treasury and bonds at the Federal Reserve. So we borrow currency into existence with an IOU, that bond, and the Federal Reserve opens up their big old checkbook that doesn't have a single penny in it and writes a bad counterfeit check and hands that to the Treasury. Dollars spring into existence. Then the Treasury deposits that in the various branches of the government, and the government does some deficit spending on social programs, public works, and war. And then they pay those government workers, the contractors, and the soldiers, and all of those people deposit it in their private banks. Banks create money by monetizing the private debts of businesses and individuals. Federal Reserve Bank of New York. So, now the miracle of fractional reserve lending comes into play. Fractional reserve lending is just what it says. They reserve a fraction of what they've got. If you go into the bank and you deposit $100, the bank is allowed to keep $10 in your checking account in case you want some of that $100, and they get to steal $90 of it without telling you. Your checking account never has the balance that it says it's got in there. They have borrowed most of that currency out of there, and they're going to loan it to other people. When those people sign that loan, currency actually gets created because you have $100 on deposit, and they have 90, so now there's 190. Then they go and buy something. That's the reason they're taking out a loan. They're going to buy a house or a car or something like that. And when they buy that thing, the seller then deposits it in his bank account. So that $90 gets deposited, and then they get to go in and steal 90% of that, meaning $81. So now there's $271 on deposit. Can everybody see how the currency supply is getting magnified by the banks here? And that process happens over and over and over again, and under a 10% reserve ratio, every dollar deposited can create another 10. So if you deposit $1 trillion in base money, it can create 10 trillion. And that is basically it. There is nothing else. Our entire currency supply is either IOUs or receipts for IOUs. That's all that it is. It's all an imaginary agreement, and it is all given value because your experience yesterday is that $1 purchased you something, so you expect that it's going to tomorrow. So you have this agreement that is...
I'm just going to let you watch this until he comes to the conclusion, and then you will see the fraud part of it. I don't know, I think it's a few more minutes.
Basically, you know, our entire currency system is imaginary. It doesn't really exist. It's just that we're all dreaming the same dream. If anybody chooses to wake up, it's over with. So it's really just a couple of bucks that is whipped up in this little voodoo hocus pocus scheme here, where the Treasury and the Federal Reserve write out IOUs for each other. A check is an IOU, a bond is an IOU, and they swap IOUs, dollars spring into existence. $1 is a receipt or a claim check on an IOU. Then the rest of the currency supply is a bunch of numbers that the banks type into their computers. They don't exist. In my book, I call things money until I get to the point where I define what money is and the difference between money and currency. And from that point forward, I only call gold and silver money, and I call everything else currency. But in the original manuscript, when I start talking about the massive currency creation that's going on and how banks are just debasing the currency supply all over the world and how this mandrake mechanism works, I start referring to it as the number supply, the M3 number supply, the base number supply, because they're just numbers that somebody made up. I can write numbers on a Post-it and hand them out like this. They make them up. They type them in the computer. It is nothing but a supply of numbers. How many numbers are there? It's infinite. So it's nothing but a number supply. But it becomes real when you work for some of that currency supply, that number supply, and at that point, it now represents your blood, sweat, labor, ideas, and talent. You are what gives the currency supply value. It would have no value without you. And the way that that value is enforced, this is the really cruel joke here, is that you then save up a part of that currency supply so that you can pay tax to the tax collector in the United States, that's called the IRS, so that they can turn that over to the Treasury, so the Treasury can pay the principal plus the interest on that bond, which was paid for with a check from nothing. So you can see that, right? Everybody sees how this works. Now, there's another joke. There was interest due on that bond.
And this is the sad joke. And you'll see it.
Let me ask you, if you borrow $1 into existence, and that's the only dollar that exists on the entire planet, but you promise to pay back $2, where do you get the second dollar? Has anybody got the answer on that one? You have to borrow, well, you borrow it into existence. When people say that they're just printing money, they're wrong. First of all, they're printing currency, but they're borrowing currency into existence. The Fed doesn't just print money. What they do is they indebt us in the future. Every one of these loans that we took out at the bank that created the vast majority of our currency supply, 95% of our currency supply roughly, has been created by the banks. I think actually that's 93% now, and the Federal Reserve created about 7%. But before the financial crisis, the actual physical paper dollars are what the Federal Reserve and the Treasury creates. It's known as base, they call it base money, I call it base currency. And then
so that's basically how money is made. As you can see, it's a pyramid scheme, and you can go check this out in other places. There are different books that you can read. I read personally this book, Gerald, Griffin, The Creature of Jekyll Island. You can see that the entire financial system is basically a gigantic pyramid scheme. When I first thought about this and realized this, I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks. That I had been fooled so fundamentally that there are people that are living off of me. And I basically just type in a bunch of numbers in a computer system and they get purchasing power from that. It's difficult to wrap your head around, but when I first watched this presentation by Mike Maloney, I checked all the claims, I checked all the links, I did research by myself, I read other books listed here. Let's see if I have any here. No. I've read probably 6 or 7 other books that I haven't listed here. For example, by what's his name, Peter Schiff, Crash Proof 2.0, The Silver Bomb by Michael McDonald, I think it was. And they all say the same thing. And it's nothing that these people are secretive about. I mean, the central banks, the Federal Reserve writes it on their own homepage that the whole money mechanism, that it's well, they don't write that it's a pyramid scheme, but that's what it is if you realize it. And this was the second part of this video presentation. I wanted to devote this to the financial system, so please don't believe me. Do your own research, check out these links, read other books, and then you will come to the conclusion that the whole financial system is a fraud, and it can only work as long as the dumb masses go along with it. And I want to thank you for your attention, and I'll speak to you next time.